Ambassador Velric stared at the holographic star map in the council chamber, his three eyes narrowing in confusion. The map showed thousands of systems, hundreds of civilizations, and countless trade routes crisscrossing the galaxy. But there was something strange. In one section of space, the map simply ... stopped. A large boundary marked human territory. Navigation restricted, surrounded a significant portion of the outer rim. Unlike other species' borders that showed diplomatic channels, trade stations, and contact points, human space was completely blank, empty, as if nothing existed there at all. "Excuse me, Velric," said to a passing Dromalian delegate. "Why is human space unmarked on the map?" The Dromalian's face went pale. Without a word, she hurried away. Velric found this reaction odd. He was new to the Galactic Council, having just arrived from his homeworld of Zenther Prime for his first diplomatic posting. Everything about this place fascinated him. But the mystery of human space intrigued him most of all. Over the next few days, Velric asked other ambassadors about humanity. Each time, he received the same treatment. They would make excuses, change the subject, or simply walk away. Some looked frightened. Others looked sad, but none would answer his questions. Finally, his mentor, Ambassador Thrace, pulled him aside. Thrace was a Chromelian, a species known for their wisdom and long lives. He had served on the council for over 60 years. "Young Velric," Thrace said, his voice heavy with concern, "you must stop asking about human space." "But why?" Velric asked. "I am simply curious. Are humans dangerous? Are they hostile?" Thrace looked around nervously, making sure no one else was listening. "Some questions are better left unasked, young one. Trust me on this." "That is not an answer," Velric protested. Thrace sighed deeply. "The humans want to be left alone, and we respect that wish. That is all you need to know." But Velric was not satisfied. The mystery only grew larger in his mind. What could make the entire Galactic Council afraid to even speak about one species? 3 weeks into his posting, everything changed. A distress signal arrived at the council. A mining vessel from the Pelthian Consortium had been fleeing from pirates. In their panic, they had accidentally crossed into human space. Now their engines were damaged, and they could not leave. The council chamber erupted in urgent discussion. The Pelthian representative begged for help. "Please. We have 47 crew members on that ship. We need to send a rescue mission immediately." The council security director, a stern Vaxian named Kral, shook his head. "That is not possible. The ship crossed into human territory. We cannot send vessels there, but they will die." The Pelthian cried. "It's better 47 lives than the alternative," Kral said coldly. Velric stood up, his voice ringing through the chamber. "This is madness. We are the Galactic Council. We exist to help those in need. I volunteer my ship and crew for the rescue mission." The chamber fell silent. Every ambassador turned to stare at him. Thrace rushed to Velric's side, grabbing his arm. "No, Velric, you do not understand what you are offering." "I understand perfectly," Velric said firmly. "There are people who need help. I will not abandon them because of superstition and fear." Thrace's expression became desperate. "It is not superstition. Listen to me, please. 30 years ago, the Krell Empire decided that humanity was a threat. They sent a war fleet into human space. 10,000 ships, Velric. The pride of their empire." Velric felt a chill run down his spine. "What happened?" "Only one ship escaped," Thrace whispered. It contained 3 survivors. All of them had gone completely insane. They spent the rest of their lives in psychiatric facilities, screaming about things that should not exist. The Krell Empire never spoke of it again, and they never ever went near human space after that. Velric swallowed hard, but his determination did not waver. That was a war fleet. "I am going on a rescue mission. Surely the humans will understand the difference." The council voted. They would allow Velric to attempt the rescue, but no other ships would accompany him. He would go alone. As Velric prepared his ship for departure, Thrace came to see him one last time. "I cannot stop you," the old ambassador said. But I beg you to be careful. The humans are not evil, but they are different. Very different. If they contact you, do exactly as they say. Do not scan their territory. Do not explore. Do not ask questions. Simply retrieve the miners and leave immediately. I will, Velric promised. The journey to human space took 3 days. As Velric's ship approached the boundary, his crew became increasingly nervous. The chief engineer, a young Zenthari named Kellen, approached him on the bridge. Sir, the crew is frightened. Perhaps we should reconsider this mission. We will not abandon those miners, Velric said firmly. Continue on course. As they crossed the boundary into human space, Velric watched his instruments carefully. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, every screen on the bridge began flickering. Warning alarms blared. Systems started failing one after another. What is happening? Kellen shouted over the noise. Before Velric could answer, all the screens went dark. Then, slowly, they came back on. But instead of displaying ship data, every single screen showed the same simple text message: turn back. This is your only warning. Humanity. Velric stared at the message, his heart's pounding. Every instinct told him to listen, to turn around, to flee back to known space. But 47 lives depended on him. He took a deep breath and said, "Continue forward. We have a rescue mission to complete." The message disappeared from the screens. The ship's systems returned to normal, and in the darkness of space around them, something began to move. The galactic map stops at human space, and everyone knows better than to ask why. Part 2. The things we don't speak of. Velric's ship moved deeper into human space. Every member of his crew stayed at their stations, eyes fixed on their instruments. The silence on the bridge was heavy with tension. "Sir," the sensor officer called out nervously, "I am detecting multiple contacts. Small vessels approaching from different directions." Velric straightened in his command chair. "Battle stations." "No, sir. They are not powering weapons. They appear to be escorting us." On the view screen, several human ships appeared. They were smaller than Velric expected. Simple designs, nothing impressive. Certainly nothing that looked capable of destroying the legendary Krell war fleet. A communication channel opened. A calm female voice spoke in perfect Zenthari. "Zenthari vessel, this is Human Defense Coordinator Chen. We are aware of your mission. We will guide you to the mining ship. You will retrieve your people and leave immediately. Do you understand?" "I understand," Velric replied. "Thank you for your cooperation." "We are not cooperating, Ambassador Velric. We are allowing." "There is a difference." Velric felt surprised that she knew his name and rank. But he simply said, "Understood." The human ships led them through several systems. Velric studied the space around them carefully. According to the data from the Galactic Council, human space should contain hundreds of colonies, industrial stations, and defense platforms. But his sensors showed nothing. The systems appeared empty, yet something felt wrong. His instruments kept giving strange readings, energy signatures that made no sense, quantum fluctuations that should not exist. It was as if reality itself was different here. Chief Engineer Kellen, Velric said quietly, "Are our sensors malfunctioning?" Kellen checked his console, his hands shaking slightly. "No, sir. The sensors are working perfectly. But the readings we are getting, they are impossible. I do not understand what we are detecting." After 2 hours, they reached the damaged mining vessel. It floated in space, its engines dark. Velric immediately opened communication with them. "This is Ambassador Velric. We are here to rescue you. Prepare for emergency transport." The mining captain's face appeared on screen. He was a Pelthian, his skin gray with stress. "Thank the stars. We have been stranded here for 3 days. We thought no one would come." "You are safe now," Velric assured him. "We will have you aboard within the hour." The rescue operation went smoothly. The 47 miners were transported to Velric's ship. Medical teams checked them immediately. Physically, they were fine. but emotionally, they appeared traumatized. Velric went to speak with the mining captain in the medical bay. "What happened here?" Velric asked gently. "Did the humans harm you?" "No," the captain said quickly. "They never showed themselves. But we knew they were watching. Every moment of every day, we felt eyes on us. My crew tried to run diagnostic scans of the nearby systems. Every time we tried, our instruments would fail. Then we would receive a message, 'Stop looking.' That was all it said." One of the miners, a young Pelthian woman, was sitting nearby. She suddenly spoke up, her voice barely a whisper. "They let us sit here for 3 days. They were testing us, seeing if we would try to steal their technology or spy on their territory. They were always there. We just could not see them." A chill ran through Velric. "How do you know this?" "Because on the 3rd day, we received another message. It said, 'You passed the test. Help is coming.' How else would they know that we did not try to scan their systems? They were watching everything we did." Before Velric could respond, his communications officer called from the bridge. "Sir, we have a request from Commander Chen. She wishes to come aboard our ship before we depart." Velric felt his pulse quickened. A human? Actually boarding his ship? He had not expected this. "Tell her she is welcome." 10 minutes later, Commander Sarah Chen materialized on his ship. Not from a shuttle. Not through a transporter beam like other species used. She simply appeared in his corridor. One moment the space was empty, and the next moment she was standing there. She was human, obviously. Shorter than Velric, with dark hair and calm brown eyes. She wore a simple uniform with no weapons that he could see. She smiled politely as security escorted her to meet Velric in his ready room. "Ambassador Velric," she said, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." Velric shook her hand carefully. Her grip was firm but not threatening. "Thank you for allowing us to rescue the miners," of course Chen said, accepting his offer to sit. "We are not monsters. They were in distress through no fault of their own. We would not leave them to die." Velric decided to be direct. "Commander, may I ask you a question?" "You want to know why everyone fears us?" Chen said with a slight smile. Chen's smile faded. She looked at him with an expression that seemed both sad and ancient. "Because we told them the truth, Ambassador, and they were smart enough to believe us." "What truth?" "That we want to be left alone," Chen said simply. "We do not want conquest. We do not want trade. We do not want allies or enemies. We want isolation. And we have the capability to enforce that desire. Absolutely." "But why?" Velric asked. "The Galactic Council could offer your species so much. Technology, culture, friendship between civilizations." Chen stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. "We had friends once, Ambassador. We had trade partners and diplomatic relations. We were part of the galactic community. Then several species decided we were too dangerous to exist. They struck first, without warning, and killed 3 billion of our people in a single week." Velric felt his blood run cold. I did not know." "No one remembers," Chen said quietly. "It was 200 years ago. The civilizations that attacked us do not exist anymore. We made sure of that." "You destroyed them?" "No," Chen said, turning to face him. "Destruction would have been mercy. We showed them exactly what we could become when pushed to the edge of extinction. And then we made a choice. We could rule the galaxy through fear. Or we could isolate ourselves and let the galaxy forget about us." She walked back to stand before Velric. "What you call isolation, we call insurance. As long as we stay in our corner of space, as long as no one bothers us, the galaxy is safe. Safe from us, and safe from what we might do if threatened again." Velric did not know what to say. Chen seemed to sense his confusion. "You seem like a reasonable person, Ambassador. So I will give you advice your colleagues will not. Study your history. Find out what happened to the species that used to occupy the space between your territory and ours. Find out why those systems are now empty." She moved toward the door, then paused. "Thank you for rescuing those miners. You have a good heart." The galaxy needs more people like you. And then she was gone. Not through the door. She simply vanished, as mysteriously as she had appeared. Velric stood alone in his ready room for a long moment. Then he turned to his computer terminal and began searching the historical archives. What he found would haunt him forever. The galactic map stops at human space, and everyone knows better than to ask why. Part 3. The Forbidden Ark of Svelek could not sleep. After returning to Council headquarters, he spent every free moment researching. Commander Chen's words echoed in his mind. Find out what happened to the species between your territory and human space. Find out why those systems are now empty. The star maps showed the empty region clearly. 12 systems, all marked as uninhabited. But the historical records were strange. 200 years ago, those systems were home to 3 spacefaring civilizations: the Krell Empire, the Tarvosian Unity, and the Melkari Collective. Now they were gone. All of them, the official records gave vague explanations. Voluntary relocation, cultural collapse, natural disaster. But these explanations made no sense. 3 separate civilizations, all disappearing at exactly the same time. Velric tried to access more detailed records, but he kept hitting security blocks. The files were classified at the highest level. He needed special permission to view them. "You're playing with fire, young one," Thrace warned him when they met for their weekly meal. "Let this matter rest." "How can I?" Velric asked. "Something terrible happened, and everyone pretends it did not. The Council is built on truth and cooperation. How can we hide our own history?" Thrace set down his eating utensil. His old eyes looked sad. "We hide it because remembering is too painful. Because the truth is so terrible that it could tear the Council apart." "Tell me," Velric insisted. "I cannot. I was not there. I only know rumors and whispers." Thrace paused, then added quietly, "But there is someone who might help you. Keeper Moth in the Central Archives. She was young during those events, but she remembers. Whether she will speak to you, that I cannot say." Velric found Keeper Moth 3 days later. She was a Silurian, a species known for their incredible memory. She had worked in the Council archives for over 130 years. Her office was buried deep in the historical records section, surrounded by data storage devices from dozens of different civilizations. "Ambassador Velric," she said when he arrived. Her voice was soft and raspy with age. "I wondered when someone would come asking questions again. You know why I'm here?" "You want to know about the war?" Moth said. "The war that we do not speak of. The war that changed everything." "Yes." Moth studied him for a long moment. Then she made a decision. "Very well, but what I show you must stay secret. If the Council knows I shared these files, I will lose my position. Do you agree?" "I agree," Velric said. Moth activated an old data terminal. Files began appearing on the screen. 200 years ago, the Krell Empire, Tarvosian Unity, and Melkari Collective formed a secret alliance. They decided that humanity was a threat that needed to be eliminated before humans could spread further into the galaxy. "Why did they think humans were a threat?" Velric asked. Moth said simply. "Humans were advancing too quickly. Their technology was developing faster than any other species in recorded history. The 3 civilizations convinced themselves that if they did not act immediately, humanity would become unstoppable." Moth pulled up tactical reports. They struck without warning. 12 human colony worlds were attacked simultaneously. The weapons they used were terrible. They burned entire planets. Over 3 billion humans died in the first week. Velric felt sick. "That is genocide." "Yes," Moth agreed. The 3 civilizations expected humanity to surrender immediately. Humans were outnumbered and outgunned. The war should have ended quickly, but it did not. No. Moth pulled up more files. The war lasted exactly 47 days. The first 3 days are well documented. Human fleets fought desperately, but they were losing. Their colonies fell one by one. It seemed certain that humanity would be extinct within a month. She paused, her expression troubled. Then something changed. The reports from the 3 civilizations became confused, frantic. They stopped making sense. Velric leaned forward, reading the translated text on the screen. The messages were indeed chaotic. They are in our systems. How did they get past our defenses? Our computers are not responding. The fleet commanders are acting strange. Something is wrong with reality itself. The final message from the Krell War Command made Velric's blood freeze. They are not using ships anymore. They are everywhere. In our systems, our stations, our minds. We surrender. Please, God, we surrender. Make them stop. Make them stop. But humanity did not accept the surrender, Moth said quietly. What happened next? We only have partial records, but we know the result. All three civilizations were systematically dismantled. Not destroyed, dismantled? What does that mean? Moth showed him survey reports from years after the war. Their populations were left alive, but they were changed. Their technology was removed or made useless. Their worlds were altered to make advanced civilization impossible. They were reset, forced back to pre-industrial levels of development. Velric stared at the reports in horror. All of them? Every single individual across all three civilizations. Billions of people, and it happened in less than 2 weeks. How is that possible? We do not know, Moth admitted. Whatever humanity became during that war, whatever they did to achieve such power, they have never explained. They simply sent one message to the entire galaxy after it was over. She pulled up a video file marked for future council members handle with extreme caution. I should not show you this, Moth said, but you deserve to know the full truth. She activated the file. A human appeared on screen. He wore a military uniform, but he looked exhausted. His face was lined with stress and grief. Behind him, stars were visible through a viewport. My name is Admiral Marcus Webb, the human said. I am speaking on behalf of all humanity. What you have witnessed over the past 47 days was not our choice. When you killed 3 billion of us, you forced us to evolve beyond what we wanted to become. The Admiral paused, gathering his thoughts. We could have killed you all. Every single individual in the 3 civilizations that attacked us. It would have been easy. But we are not you. We are not murderers. So instead, we showed you what we could do. We stripped away everything that made you a threat. You will live long lives, peaceful lives. But you will never threaten anyone again. The Admiral's eyes hardened. And now, we are going to disappear. We are going to isolate ourselves in our corner of space. We are going to continue evolving into something beyond what you can understand. And if you are wise, you will forget we exist. The screen changed to show a demonstration. A single human ship approached a star. The ship generated some kind of field around the star. The star began to destabilize, its light fluctuating wildly. It looked like it might go supernova at any moment. Then, just as suddenly, the field reversed. The star stabilized. It returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. The Admiral's voice continued. This is a fraction of what we can do now. We can manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself, and that terrifies us as much as it terrifies you. The video ended. Velric sat in silence, trying to process what he had seen. Now you understand, Moth said softly. Now you know why the maps stop at human space. Why everyone is afraid to even speak about them. Before Velric could respond, his personal terminal activated on its own. A message appeared on the screen. Ambassador Velric, we know what you have been reading. We need to talk. Come to these coordinates alone. Commander Chen, a set of spatial coordinates followed. Moth looked at the message, then at Velric. Will you go? Velric thought about everything he had learned. About the terrible war. About what humanity had become. About the power they wielded. Yes, he said finally. I need to understand the full truth. And may the stars protect you, Moth whispered. Because you are about to see things that no one should ever see. The galactic map stops at human space and everyone knows better than to ask why. Part 4. The price of knowledge of Velric stood on the bridge of his personal shuttle, staring at the coordinates Commander Chen had sent him. They led to a system deep within human space, a system that appeared completely empty on all official maps. His pilot, a trusted friend named Siren, looked worried. "Sir, are you certain about this? Going alone into human territory seems unwise." "I need to do this, Siren," Velric replied. "Return to Council headquarters if I do not come back within 3 days. And tell them what? That you disappeared into human space chasing answers?" Velric managed a weak smile. "Tell them I died doing what diplomats are supposed to do. Seeking understanding." The journey took 6 hours. As Velric's shuttle approached the coordinates, his sensors showed nothing unusual. Just empty space around a small yellow star. Then, without warning, something appeared. A structure decloaked directly in front of his shuttle. It was not large, perhaps the size of a small station. The design was simple, almost elegant. But Velric's instruments immediately went wild with impossible readings. "Unknown shuttle, this is monitoring station 7, came Commander Chen's familiar voice. "You are cleared to dock. Welcome, Ambassador Velric." The docking process was smooth. As Velric stepped off his shuttle, he found himself in a corridor that looked nothing like human architecture from the history files. The walls seemed to shift subtly when he was not looking directly at them. The lighting came from no visible source. Commander Chen was waiting for him. She smiled warmly, but there was sadness in her eyes. "Ambassador, thank you for coming. I know this took courage." "Thank you for inviting me," Velric replied, "though I admit I am confused." "Why reach out to me specifically?" "Because you could not leave it alone," Chen said, gesturing for him to follow her. "They never can. Every few decades, someone like you comes along. Someone who needs to know the truth. Someone who looks at the blank space on the map and cannot stop asking why." She led him through corridors that seemed to bend in ways that made no geometric sense. Most people accept the mystery. They hear the warnings, see the fear in everyone's eyes, and decide that ignorance is safer. But people like you need to understand. They entered a large observation room. The walls were transparent, showing the star system around them. But as Velric looked closer, he realized he was seeing things that should not be possible. Structures that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Energy patterns that defied every law of physics he knew. "What am I looking at?" He whispered. "What?" "Humanity," Chen replied simply. "This is what we have become." She waved her hand, and the view changed. Now, Velric could see more clearly. The system was not empty at all. It was filled with life, with activity, with impossible constructions. But they existed in ways his mind struggled to understand. "When the 3 civilizations attacked us," Chen began, "they pushed us to the edge of extinction. We had a choice. We could die, or we could break through barriers that every other species considered impossible." She pulled up holographic displays showing complex, scientific formulas. "We mastered quantum manipulation. We learned to interface our consciousness directly with the fundamental structure of reality. We transcended the limitations of biological existence." "How?" Velric asked, his voice shaking. "Desperation," Chen said. "Fear, rage, love for those we had already lost. When you kill billions of people, when you threaten to extinct an entire species, you create a pressure that forces evolution. We evolved in 47 days more than most species do in millions of years." She turned to face him directly. "We became God's ambassador. And then we looked at what we had done with that power, and we were horrified." Chen walked to the transparent wall, placing her hand against it. "We can manipulate space-time itself. We can exist simultaneously across multiple dimensions. We can interface directly with quantum fields and rewrite the rules of physics in localized areas. We can do things that your civilization will not discover for another 1,000,000 years of natural evolution." "Then why hide?" Velric asked. "With such power, you could lead the galaxy. You could bring peace, prosperity, advancement to everyone." "Because we are still human," Chen said quietly. "We still feel anger. We still feel grief. We still desire revenge when we are hurt. But now, those feelings can literally reshape solar systems." She looked at Velric with ancient, tired eyes. "Imagine if your worst emotional moment had the power to destroy a planet. Imagine if a moment of rage could collapse a star. Imagine if grief could tear holes in reality itself. That is what we live with every day. Valric felt a chill run through his entire body. You are in self-imposed exile. We are in quarantine, Chen corrected. These monitoring stations exist at the border of our space. We watch the galaxy. We make sure no one else makes the mistake of attacking us. But mostly, we stay here, in our corner of space, pursuing our strange evolution away from everyone else. Can I see? Velric asked. Can I truly see what humanity has become? Chen studied him for a long moment. Most people do not want to see. Once you see, you cannot unsee it. You will never look at reality the same way again. Are you certain? I am certain. Chen nodded slowly. Very well. Come with me. She led him to another chamber. This one was a viewing platform overlooking a much larger section of human space. What I am about to show you is real. It is not a simulation or a trick. This is humanity as we exist now. She activated controls. The view changed and Velric gasped. Human space was not empty. It was more densely populated than any region of the galaxy. But the humans no longer existed in forms he could easily recognize. Some had merged with their technology completely, becoming living ships that moved through space without engines. Others existed as distributed consciousnesses spread across entire star systems. He saw structures the size of planets that were alive, breathing, thinking. There were humans who existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, forms flickering between states of matter and energy. There were experiments in reality itself, localized regions where the laws of physics had been rewritten to test new theories, and everywhere there was growth. Humanity was still evolving, still changing, still becoming something more than what they were. This is what we chose to become, Chen said softly, rather than live in a galaxy that wanted us dead. And this is why we can never come back to normal space. We have gone too far beyond baseline reality. Our mere presence would be dangerous to other species. Velric could not speak. His mind struggled to process what he was seeing. Chen placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. I am sorry to burden you with this knowledge, Ambassador, but it is important that someone outside humanity understands. We are not your enemy, but we are also no longer your kind. Before Velric could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed. Chen's expression immediately changed from warm to something cold and ancient. What is happening? Velric asked. Chen pulled up tactical displays. A massive fleet had just entered human space. The identification codes showed Krell Imperial vessels. Thousands of them. No, Chen whispered. Not again. Transmission came through. A Krell commander appeared on screen, his face filled with arrogance. Humans, I am Emperor Thrask of the new Krell Empire. Your time of hiding is over. The old stories were lies told by the weak. You will submit to our authority or be destroyed. You have 1 hour to respond. The transmission ended. Chen stood perfectly still for a moment. Then she looked at Velric, and he saw something terrifying. In her eyes, not anger, not fear, just a deep, profound sadness. You wanted to know why the maps stop at human space, Ambassador? She said quietly. You are about to see exactly why. I only pray you have the strength to witness it. The galactic map stops at human space, and everyone knows better than to ask why. Part 5. The reminder the Krell fleet was massive. Velric watched the tactical display in horror as more and more ships appeared on the scanners. 50,000 warships, each one bristling with weapons. It was the largest military force he had ever seen assembled. Emperor Thrask's face appeared on every screen, broadcasting across all frequencies. His voice was filled with confidence and cruelty. Humans. For too long, you have hidden in your corner of space, spreading fear through lies and old stories. The new Krell Empire does not believe in ghost tales. You will submit to our rule, or we will exterminate every last one of you. You have 10 minutes to surrender. Velric turned to Commander Chen, expecting to see fear or panic. Instead, she was calmly pouring herself a cup of tea from a dispenser on the wall. Commander? Velric said urgently. 50,000 ships are about to attack. Should we not evacuate? Call for help? Chen took a sip of her tea and sighed. I was hoping we would have another century before someone needed a reminder. The galaxy has a short memory. You are not going to fight them. Fight them. Chen looked at him with those ancient, sad eyes. Ambassador, we are going to show them why the maps stop at human space. I am sorry you have to witness this. But perhaps it is good that someone from the council will see. Someone who can tell the truth of what happens here. Activated a communication system. This is Commander Sarah Chen to all of humanity. We have an incursion. A large one. I am requesting a responder. Acknowledged came a voice through the system. Responder David is available. Dispatching now. Velric felt confused. One person? You are sending one person against 50,000 warships? Chen set down her tea. Not a person, Ambassador. Not anymore. David was human once, very long ago. Now he is. Something else. Something we became out of necessity during the war. He volunteered to remain at this level of existence to protect our borders. The tactical display showed the Krell fleet moving into attack formation. Emperor Thrask's transmission continued, counting down the minutes to their ultimatum. Then, something appeared in space before the Krell fleet. Not a ship. Not a weapon. A man simply standing in the vacuum of space as if it were solid ground. He wore simple clothes, looked middle-aged, with gray hair and tired eyes. He could have been anyone's grandfather, what... Velric started to say. That is David, Chen said quietly. He was from the Chicago settlement, one of the colonies that was destroyed in the original war. He lost his wife, his children, and his grandchildren in the attack. When humanity evolved, he evolved further than most. And he chose to use that power to make sure it never happens again. David's voice suddenly filled every ship in the Krell fleet. It was gentle, almost grandfatherly. Krell vessels. I am David. You have entered human space with hostile intent. You have 10 minutes to turn around. This is the only warning you will receive. Emperor Thrask's face turned purple with rage. You dare. You send one unarmed fool to face my entire fleet? I will show the galaxy what happens to those who mock the Krell Empire. All ships, fire at will. 50,000 warships opened fire simultaneously. The amount of energy released was enough to sterilize a dozen planets. Missiles, plasma beams, kinetic weapons, everything the Krell had unleashed at once. Velric watched in horror as the weapons converged on David's position. The light was blinding, but when it cleared, David was still there, unchanged, unharmed. Around him, suspended in space, were millions of weapons. Missiles frozen in mid-flight. Energy beams stopped, as if time itself had paused. All of it hung motionless in the void. David looked at the frozen weapons with an expression of deep sadness. Then he spoke again, his voice carrying across all channels. We hoped never to do this again. We hoped the galaxy would learn. But you have forced our hand. He raised one hand. Not in a gesture of violence, but almost in blessing. What happened next would be witnessed by sensors across the entire galaxy. Every government, every news service, every military would record what came next. The Krell ships began to change. Not destroyed. Not exploded. Changed. Weapon systems transformed at the molecular level. Guns became gardens. Missile tubes filled with flowering plants. Armor plating reconfigured into breathable atmosphere generators. War computers rewrote themselves into art installation programs. Inside the ships, every Krell warrior felt their aggression simply disappear. Their neural chemistry was rewritten. They could no longer feel the desire to hurt anyone. They could no longer raise a weapon with intent to harm. It was not mind control. It was deeper than that. It was a fundamental change to what they were. Emperor Thrask found himself transported from his command throne to what had been his flagship's bridge. The bridge was now a meditation chamber, filled with peaceful music and soft light. He tried to order his crew to fight, but the words would not come. He could not even form the thought. David's voice echoed through every ship. You came to end us. Instead, We have given you the one thing you needed most. The inability to make war. You will live long lives. Happy lives. You will explore, create, build, and discover. But you will never raise a weapon in anger again. This is our gift to you. The transformation spread, not just to the fleet, but to Krell space itself. Every military installation, every weapon factory, every instrument of war across the entire Krell Empire transformed simultaneously, converted to peaceful purposes in the span of heartbeats. Across the galaxy, every species with sensors capable of detecting it watched in absolute horror. The Galactic Council's emergency session was called immediately. Ambassadors from 100 worlds stared at the reports in stunned silence. On monitoring Station 7,
Ow!
Velric collapsed into a chair, his entire body shaking. How? How is this possible? We broke the rules of reality, Chen said softly. During the war, we learned that consciousness is not separate from the physical universe. It is part of it. We learned to interface with a quantum field that underlies all existence. We can rewrite the fundamental code of reality itself in localized areas. She looked at him with sympathy. David did not harm them, Ambassador. He saved them. The Krell were on a path to destroying themselves through their own aggression. We simply removed that aggression. In a generation, they will thank us. Their civilization will flourish in ways it never could while dedicated to war. But the choice, Velric whispered, you took away their choice. Yes, Chen admitted. Just as they tried to take away our choice to exist. This is why we hide, Ambassador. This is why we stay isolated. Because we have the power to reshape civilizations with a thought. And that power terrifies us as much as it terrifies you. David's form flickered in space. Then he was gone, returned to wherever he existed when not needed. Chen turned to Velric. You asked why the maps stop at human space. Now you have your answer. The maps stop because that is where baseline reality ends. That is where the old rules no longer apply. That is where something new has emerged, something that cannot be mapped or cataloged or understood by those who have not experienced what we experienced. She helped him to his feet. You will return to the council now. You will tell them what you saw, and they will believe you because they will have seen the same thing on their sensors. The galaxy will be reminded why humanity stays isolated. Why we must stay isolated. 3 days later, Velric stood before the full Galactic Council. Every ambassador was present. Every screen showed the footage from the Krell incident. The silence was absolute. What you have witnessed, Velric said, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil, is why the maps stop at human space. Humanity has evolved beyond what we can understand. They possess power that can reshape reality itself, but they do not wish to rule us. They do not wish to hurt us. They only wish to be left alone. He paused, looking at each ambassador in turn. The humans are not our enemies, but they are no longer our kind either. They have become something else, something that exists beyond the boundaries of normal space. And as long as we respect those boundaries, as long as we remember what they are capable of, the galaxy will be safe. Ambassador Thrace stood slowly. And if we forget, then they will remind us, Velric said quietly. As they reminded the Krell, not through destruction, but through demonstration. They will show us what they can do. And we will remember why the maps have that blank space. Why that region is marked restricted. Why everyone knows better than to ask why. Council voted unanimously. Human space would remain isolated. The boundaries would be respected. The mystery would be allowed to remain a mystery. As Velric returned to his quarters that night, he found a final message waiting for him. It was from Commander Chen. Thank you for understanding, Ambassador. The galaxy needs people like you. People who ask questions, but who also know when to stop asking. Humanity will remain in our corner of space, pursuing our strange evolution in peace. Tell them we are not their enemy. But also tell them that we are no longer their kind either. The maps stop at human space because that is where baseline reality ends. Remember that, and help others. Remember it too. Velric looked at his star map one last time. At the blank space, at the boundary that everyone knew better than to cross. Now he understood. Some mysteries existed not to be solved, but to be respected. Some questions had answers too terrible to share. And some spaces on the map were left blank as a kindness, a reminder, a warning. The map stopped at human space because that was where one chapter of galactic history ended, and another, stranger chapter began. A chapter that the rest of the galaxy was not ready to read. And perhaps, Velric thought, as he turned off the display, they never would be. The end.